they met in the 60s, and they were big rock and roll stars.
Okay.
And doing the crazy rock and roll lifestyle, drugs, and just all kinds of craziness.
Okay.
And they met Jesus right at the late part of the 60s. My dad actually met Jesus. He was smoking dope. He was doing yoga and reading the book of Isaiah. And he started reading that God had a voice. And it blew up all of his religious boxes. That God still spoke. Not just in a book, but God was speaking. And he encountered the voice of God.
Like literally?
Well, he encountered the love and the voice of God through some amazing circumstances. One of them was, he had a little girl then who's my oldest sister.
Okay.
And one night when he was putting her to bed, she looked up at him and said, "Daddy, Jesus wants you to play in his band."
Love that.
And totally melted his heart.
Yeah.
And through some other incredible experiences, he came to follow Jesus.
Okay.
And him and my mom left the whole, what the world called success.
Okay.
And they started following a man with fire in his eyes and holes in his hands named Jesus. And it literally saved their marriage, because my dad had, for 2 years, had been unfaithful to my mom.
Okay.
And my mom looked in his eyes and completely forgave him of 2 years of this rock and roll lifestyle. If it wasn't for forgiveness, I wouldn't be here.
Okay.
Because both my mom and dad were on the edge of committing suicide. Because the rock and roll, what the world called success, was destroying them. She forgives them. God forgives them.
Yeah.
And literally their lives restored.
Yeah.
7 years later, my mom is diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And the doctors want to perform surgery right away.
Yeah.
And the surgery would prevent my mom from ever having kids again.
Okay.
And so, through a crazy series of events, my mom is completely healed of cancer.
Wow. Okay.
So, do you want me to share how that happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my dad, she's 2 weeks away from surgery.
Okay.
And my dad gets a call from someone in their church. And he said, "Last night God came to me in a dream. Jesus came to me in a dream.
Okay.
And he said that you and your wife are going to have a son named Jonathan David.
Wow.
He's going to know me. He's going to walk with me. And he's going to write music for his generation." This man doesn't know my mom is about to have surgery. Doesn't know that my mom has cancer.
Okay.
And so they pray for my mom at church the next week. The cancer completely disappears. The doctors are stunned.
Okay.
And 2 years later, I'm born.
Wow. That is incredible.
Yeah. But, you know, my parents never told me the whole word about music and about walking with God.
Yeah.
They told me my mom had been healed. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I had to discover who God was for myself.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I was around, probably as a teenager, I remember the first time I walked into a radical worship service where they weren't just doing hymns and they weren't just in pews, but they were worshiping in ways I'd never seen worship. The music was incredible. People were dancing in ways I'd never seen people dance. And it woke up something inside of me.
Okay.
And I felt the tangible love of God. Have you ever had that moment, like in worship, where you feel where the love of God's more real than the ground you're standing on? It's more real than the air in your lungs, and love rushed through my system.
Wow.
And when I stepped into the atmosphere of worship, it ruined me for anything else.
And how old were you?
I was about 15, 16 years old.
Okay.
And so later that year, I went into my dad's room one night and knocked on the door. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I really, do you have a guitar? I think I might want to start playing music." And I remember
never taking classes.
I had loved. I just played sports my whole life. I always had some kind of ball in my hand.
Yeah.
And I was about 17, and he went up in the attic and got this guitar, brought it back down and gave it to me, and I just dove into music. And he was so happy about it. I didn't know why. But remember, 20 years before that, he had this word.
Yeah.
And so around 18, 19 years old, I wrote my first song.
Okay.
And when I shared that song with him,
yeah.
I remember I shared it with him and these huge tears came out of his eyes.
Of course, yeah.
He had been waiting 20 years to hear that song. And it was a song all about me encountering God for myself.
Yeah.
And I just writing that first song, like just the encounters I had with God for myself in it. And as I played it for him, he just began to cry and smile all at once. And he told me, he said, I've been waiting 20 years to hear that song.
Yeah.
Little did you know that there's been a word over your life that you would play music. And so it was a crazy thing to be in the unfolding of that experience.
So, in your teenage years, were you always going after God? Did you ever have your weak moments?
Yeah, I definitely had some dips.
Did the things of the world ever tempt you?
Yeah, they pulled on my heart.
Yeah.
But after that moment, like in some of those moments in worship where I really tasted the real thing, when I went back to the world, I'm like, this is a counterfeit. And the massive hole that when I walked in that, I remember walking in that first service where it filled that hole.
Yeah.
And when I went back to the world, it was like, that would never fill this hole.